Hello and welcome back to Shelf Center. This is Bryce. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thanks for liking and subscribing. If this is something you end up enjoying, it could happen. You never know. This is my news segment, Top Shelf News, where I get to talk about all things science fiction, fantasy, sometimes horror, and mostly as they relate to books, but often as they relate to media, just depending on what the week brings, you know? You never know. Jumping right into the books, the book news. The first biggest book news has got to be Brandon Sanderson. It always is, right? There's no bigger. And he's constantly just churning out books. So, I mean, it's just constantly news from Brandon Sanderson. I get that. I'm sorry, a little bit, but not too much. Anyway, Mistborn Era 3. That's in the news now. He's well on his way to finishing Book 5 in the Stormlight Archive. This is a Stormlight year, which means he's writing it. He's over the 60%. I think it was 62% last I checked. But this is, as he states, these are his hard years for writing. They're very hard. He's got lots of big characters to juggle, a huge series, huge scope, huge everything. And these are difficult. They're huge stories to maintain, and which is why he takes, not only quite a while to actually write them, especially for him, like over a year is like, oh my gosh, it's like 12 normal years for an author and I think 100 George R. Martin years, something like that. But anyway, Era 3, we've been told like the Mistborn, there's kind of like the fantasy world, then we got the Western kind of, along the timeline of Mistborn stuff, and then we're eventually going to get like a futuristic, maybe sci-fi Mistborn, and how kind of some of the Mistborn elements and magics play into like a sci-fi, which I think would be cool eventually, but it doesn't sound like that's what this is. So, Era 3, we're still, we got a little bit of information. Be careful, I'm not even going to say it right here. He essentially released a tentative title for Era 3. I'll let you go check out the link below if you really want some spoilers, because essentially some things from The Lost Metal, which is the last book in Era 2, that's what you're looking at if you want to know. So anyway, I don't want to do it. I already spoiled enough for myself. As you probably know, I've only read book 1, so I'm still got to finish a whole lot more before I go figure this out. But anyway, figured you might want to know, it's Brandon Sanderson. All right, then in also huge epic book news, fantasy book series news, we're talking The Witcher. The Witcher, Tchaikovsky has essentially said, hey, I'm writing another book in the Witcher series. It's been 10 years since the last book, the prequel, Sea of Storms, came out. It's been 24 years since essentially the main story ended back in 1999. I know, I had to look it up. With the Lady of the Lake, and again, maybe that was the Polish kind of timeline, and I'm not exactly sure when they started coming out in the US. So it's been some time, this series, which is crazy because it was coming out at the same time as like A Song of Ice and Fire, Malazan's first books, hit the end of the 90s. Wheel of Time was during that, some of these huge series, and then The Witcher's really it's kind of come up later, I'm sure, because of the translating into other languages and whatnot. But anyway, so this is cool. The author himself states, look, I don't usually announce anything until it's done, right? And this, for him to actually state something about what he's writing, is pretty cool. We have no idea. It's just confirmed that he's working on a book. We don't know when it will be, prequel, maybe after the main series. I don't know, I haven't finished it. I don't know how complete that last book is, the ending is. But I am almost done with Sword of Destiny. Should be done in the next day or two. And I am really enjoying it. And so that's just it's a prequel short story collection. And I'm really enjoying it. I'm a little worried to get back into to get to full-blown novels in the world, because I think just the short story is really working, which is funny because the first time I read The Last Wish, I did not like it. Now that I've read it a second time and loved it, I'm really excited for short stories here, and I'm enjoying Sword of Destiny very much. Though, I don't know, maybe not as much as my reread of Last Wish. I don't know, I'll have to figure that out. Those are important questions. But anyway, very cool. Not a lot of information on it, just that there's something, again, after 10 years. So that's pretty cool. All right, then Powder Mage. I don't know if you're a fan. I am a fan. Brian McClellan is a fun author. but it's getting the broken binding treatment, that first trilogy. I love those original Orbit covers. I think they're so good. They're just really good covers. They tell a lot in just the Tamas, however you want to pronounce his name, Tamas, just on that cover, being worn out, but also all decorated up and everything. Anyway, they're very cool covers. I love them. Maybe it's just sprayed edges, so I'll have to do some research there. But anyway, get ready for that one. I thought this was pretty fun news that I learned from Daniel Green. Essentially, Good Omens, if you've been watching it, it's kind of more book than it is media, I think. At least that's the excitement for me. So I'm putting this into the book section. Neil Gaiman has essentially promised. So Good Omens is it's a TV show. It's on Amazon Prime, I believe, and it's in its second season. And essentially, it hasn't quite been picked up for the third season. And if it does, then we're good, right? Everybody's happy that wants it, and anyone else who didn't care doesn't care anyway. But if it doesn't get picked up, Gaiman's essentially promised to write a book that's what it would be, right? Like is the third season. Like he'll write out the third season, but publish it as a book. So I think that's pretty cool. I thought it was pretty funny what Daniel Green pointed out, that it'd be great if we could get both, but if the show succeeds, then we lose a book by Neil Gaiman. And I'm like, oh, that's true. That is rough. But at the same time, maybe he frees him up to keep working on his own things. There's other things that are coming out that'll be even more epic, right? So anyway, Good Omens, love the book. Sadly, Terry Pratchett, we lost him not too long ago, and that has just been a tragedy for the world, for art in general, and for humor in general. But it is great that Neil Gaiman at least is a big part of Good Omens. All right, then in book release news, Adrian Tchaikovsky continues to make his way up my list of authors that I really need to read. Just become really prolific, almost like the Brandon Sanderson of science fiction, even though he has his own fantasy series. But just constantly releasing book after book, really just prolific and doing a great job with that. So next year, Service Model coming out. It's June of next year. The problem is anywhere I've gone a Goodreads, I've gone to Macmillan itself, not even a synopsis. There's like a page count. It's like 424 pages. I don't know if that helps anyone. And no cover yet, not a whole lot to it explained. And so, but anyway, if you're a Tchaikovsky fan, there you go. I need to become one, I think, and I'm excited to learn. All right, then in much more boring news, we've got Simon & Schuster has been picked up. They have been sold to a private equity firm. I'll leave the link below. Essentially, they were blocked from combining with Penguin Random House not too long ago. No one really wants the Simon's Random Penguin. No one really wants to limit competition. Those are already two of the biggest book publishers. It just that would limit competition way too much. So I was actually pretty happy about that, getting blocked. But then just getting sold to another place, and for over $2 billion, I was like, holy cow! There's still a lot in traditional publishing. They're still kicking around. That's good. I like that. With all the options, it's good to have more options. That's what I say, because they're just now one of the many options. Because I love how self-publishing has really been taken off, and there's so much good stuff out there. So, but it's hard to say. I need to read up a little bit more on it, because it just seems like, yeah, it's a buyout. At least it wasn't like Penguin Random House. It wasn't, Macmillan. Wasn't any of the big five. There's still that many. There's still the competition. It's not at least cutting out competition, unless that private equity firm also owns Penguin Random House. Who knows? I don't, and they don't tell me these things. But anyway, just in case you were curious, anyway, I always find it fascinating. Simon & Schuster was really jonesing to get out of business, or to transfer businesses to someone else. It just seems like crazy. All right, then in shortly, some media news. I already talked about The Witcher before, but just thought this was something to comment on. The Witcher Season 3 doesn't seem to be doing great, and one of the producers blamed the audience. Also, there was a blame on having to dumb things down essentially for American audience because they couldn't have complex plots for American audiences or the youths. I'm not sure exactly what the problem was here. Why are they not watching it? It's because you dumbed it down, or are you kind of just tacitly admitting that you made a bad product? Is that what happened? Is that really what you're saying? Is that maybe even, I mean, just some of your treatment of like the most beloved actor seemingly ever in Henry Cavill, at least for Superman, and for Geralt of Rivia? Like, anyway, it just seems like a lot of bad decisions. It was doing pretty well, and then you're like, hey, let's make this so miserable for Henry Cavill that he's out, and not follow the books, because who cares about a successful source material that's done really well? I mean, why would you even need to follow that when you have your own dumb ideas, right? And so that's what just boggles my mind. It's like the Star Wars treatment, like, no, I want to do my own thing. And you're like, yeah, but like, you know, there's this whole like lore that has been built up, and it kind of has some rules that you got to follow. And not to mention, there's literal source material you can go for. And in The Witcher, there's 6 whole books plus some short story collections. In Star Wars, there's a whole expanded universe. Like, let's take what's worked and maybe don't take what didn't work and utilize at least some of that. You can, I mean, there's just so much to use. It just boggles my mind the kind of ego you have to be like, yeah, we're producing something, and part of the reason we're able to do that is because it's popular in a different medium, but we're not going to follow that medium. What? I will never understand this. Like, the whole thing, like the Wheel of Time frustrated me because it was like, oh, this is a different turning of the wheel. It's like, yeah, but you're using the same characters, you're using the same ideas, and it's the same world. Like just follow it and don't give yourself just a cop out like right off the bat, instead of like actually like have some faith in what you're doing and make it good. I don't know. That's just driving me nuts. People just wanting to put their own stamps on it, and then somehow they're given like so much leeway to just do it with these like huge properties. So I will never understand. As I've always said, hey, I could be a CEO of a company. I'm great at making terrible decisions. So anyway, that's been the news to me. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for liking and subscribing, and let me know if I missed anything, and we'll catch you later. Bye.